Dr. Alex Kane checked his instruments one more time as his small research ship flew through the orange clouds of Kepler 442b. The planet looked peaceful from space, but Alex knew that looks could fool you. His job was to study the plant life here and see if humans could use this world someday. The ship shook as it hit rough air. Alex gripped his seat and watched the controls flash red warnings. Something was wrong. Very wrong. The engine made a loud grinding noise, then went quiet. Alex felt his stomach drop as the ship began to fall. "Emergency landing protocol activated," the computer said in its calm voice. Alex wished he felt as calm as the computer sounded. The ground rushed up fast. Alex saw tall red rocks and deep canyons below. He tried to steer the ship toward a flat area, but the controls barely worked. The ship hit the ground hard, bounced twice, then slid into a narrow canyon. Metal screamed against rock. Then everything went dark. Alex woke up with a pounding headache. Blood ran down his face from a cut on his forehead. The ship was tilted at a strange angle, wedged between two canyon walls. Smoke filled the air, and sparks shot from broken panels. He checked himself for broken bones. His left arm hurt, but he could move it. His legs worked fine. Alex felt lucky to be alive. Many pilots did not walk away from crashes like this. The ship's computer was dead. No lights, no air recycling, no radio. Alex found a hand scanner that still worked and checked the air outside. It was breathable, but barely. The oxygen was low, and there were chemicals in the air that would make him sick after a few hours. Alex gathered what supplies he could find: a week's worth of food bars, 3 bottles of water, a basic medical kit, and a broken communication device that might work if he could fix it. He also took his research tools and a small plasma cutter that might be useful. Outside the ship, the canyon was like an oven. The 2 suns in the sky beat down on the red rocks, making the air shimmer with heat. Alex could hear strange sounds, echoing from deeper in the canyon, clicks, whistles, and something that sounded like screaming. He climbed to higher ground and looked around. The canyon stretched for miles in both directions, with walls too steep to climb. His ship was stuck deep in a crack between the rocks. Even if someone came looking for him, they would never see the ship from above. Alex set up a small shelter using pieces from his ship. The heat was getting worse, and he needed shade. As night came, the temperature dropped fast. Soon he was shivering in the cold, listening to howls echoing through the canyon. On the second day, Alex tried to fix his radio. The main power cell was cracked, but he thought he could patch it. While he worked, something moved in the shadows nearby. Alex grabbed his plasma cutter and pointed it toward the sound. A creature stepped into the light. It was about the size of a large dog, but it walked on 6 legs and had too many eyes. Its skin was gray-green and covered in sharp spines. The creature looked at Alex for a long moment, then opened its mouth to show rows of needle-like teeth. Alex backed away slowly. The creature followed, making a low rumbling sound. More shapes moved in the shadows. Alex was surrounded. He fired the plasma cutter into the air. The bright flash and loud crack made the creatures jump back, but they did not run away. They were hungry, and Alex was food. For 3 hours, Alex fought off the pack of creatures. Every time they got close, he fired the plasma cutter, but the weapon's power was running low. Soon he would have no defense at all. Just when Alex thought he was going to die, the ground began to shake. A deep rumbling sound came from below his feet. The creatures stopped attacking and ran away as fast as they could. Alex felt the ground crack under him. He fell into darkness. When Alex woke up, He was lying on something soft in a place lit by gentle blue light. Strange smells filled the air, like flowers and old books. His head still hurt, but someone had cleaned his wounds and put bandages on his cuts. Alex sat up slowly and looked around. He was in a large cave with smooth walls that curved up into shadows. The blue light came from glowing plants that grew on the walls like living lamps. The air was cool and easy to breathe. "You are awake," said a voice behind him. Alex turned and saw something that made him gasp. A creature stood nearby, but this one was different from the hunters in the canyon. It was tall and thin, with 4 arms and skin that looked like it was made of green glass. Its face was kind, with large dark eyes that seemed full of wisdom. "Who are you?" Alex asked. His voice came out as a whisper. "I am Kethara," the creature said. It spoke perfect English, which surprised Alex. "We are the people of the deep places, the Zephyrians. We found you falling through the broken ground above our home." "Thank you," Alex said. "I think you saved my life." Kethara moved closer. Its 4 hands gestured in a way that seemed to mean peace. "We saw your metal bird fall from the sky. We watched the surface hunters try to kill you. When the ground opened, we caught you before you could be hurt more." Alex looked around the cave again. Now he could see that it was not natural. The walls were carved with beautiful patterns, and doorways led to other rooms. This was not just a cave. It was a home. "Why did you help me?" Alex asked. "You don't know me. You don't know if I'm dangerous." Kethara's large eyes seemed to smile, even though its face could not change expression like a human face. "We help because that is what good people do. Your kind, our kind, all thinking beings should help each other when they can." Other Zephyrians came into the room. They brought food that looked like colored paste and water that tasted clean and sweet. Alex ate carefully, not sure if the food would make him sick. But it tasted good, and he felt stronger after eating. "How long can I stay here?" Alex asked. "My people will come looking for me, but it might take a long time." "You can stay as long as you need," Kethara said. "We do not turn away those who need help. But you should know, we have troubles of our own. The surface hunters grow bolder each day. They want to drive us from our homes and take our water. We are a peaceful people, and we do not know how to fight a war." Alex felt a spark of hope. Maybe he could help these kind people who had saved his life. Maybe his knowledge could make a difference. "Tell me about these surface hunters," Alex said. "Maybe we can figure out something together." Outside, far above their heads, the suns set over the canyon. But deep underground, in the blue glow of the Zephyrian caves, a friendship was beginning that would change 2 worlds forever. Alex spent his first week learning about the Zephyrians and their underground world. The caves went on for miles, connected by tunnels that the Zephyrians had carved over thousands of years. Everywhere Alex looked, he saw signs of a gentle and smart people. The Zephyrians grew their food in gardens lit by glowing plants. They made beautiful art from colored stones and metals they found deep in the earth. They had books written on thin sheets of metal, filled with stories and knowledge, passed down through many generations. But Alex also saw the fear in their large, dark eyes. Every day, Zephyrian scouts came back with bad news about the surface hunters they called the HFY. "They poisoned another water source yesterday," reported a young Zephyrian named Veltar. "3 more of our people got sick drinking from the Eastern Springs." Cathara's four hands moved in patterns that Alex was learning meant sadness and worry. How many clean sources do we have left? Only 5, Veltar said. Maybe 6 if we can clean the small stream near the crystal caves. Alex listened to these reports and felt anger growing in his chest. The Krexhai were not just fighting a war. They were trying to make the Zephyrians extinct by taking away everything they needed to live. Tell me more about these Krexhai, Alex said to Cathara that evening. They sat in the Elder's private chamber, a beautiful room carved from pink stone. Cathara's eyes grew dim. They came from the hot lands to the south 50 years ago. At first, they only wanted some territory to live on. We offered to share, as we always do with newcomers, but sharing was not enough for them. They wanted everything. What do they look like? Alex asked. They are large, with thick skin like armor and sharp claws. They walk on 2 legs like you do, but they are much bigger and stronger than your people. They have weapons made from metal and fire. Alex pulled out his small notebook and started drawing based on Cathara's description. The Krexhai sounded like large reptiles, probably evolved from predators. That would explain why they thought like hunters instead of builders. How do they fight? Alex asked. They attack in groups, using metal spears and fire throwers. They are strong and fast, but not very smart about tactics. They usually just charge straight at their enemies and try to overwhelm them with numbers. Alex nodded. The Krexhai sounded like they depended on being bigger and stronger than their enemies. They probably had never fought anyone who could match their technology. Over the next few days, Alex explored more of the Zephyrian settlement. He met families who had fled from other parts of the underground network as the Krexhai destroyed their homes. He saw children who had never known peace, and elders who remembered when the surface and underground peoples lived without fighting. The Zephyrians showed Alex their workshops, where they made tools and art from metals they mined deep underground. Their technology was different from human technology, but it was not primitive. They had found ways to shape metal without heat, using sound waves and pressure. They could make their walls glow with living light by growing special plants. Your people are amazing, Alex told Cathara one day. You have so much knowledge, so many skills. Why can't you fight back against the Krexhai? Cathara's 4 hands moved in the pattern that meant confusion and sadness. We have never learned to hurt others on purpose. Our whole culture is built on helping, not harming. When someone is hungry, we feed them. When someone is hurt, we heal them. When someone needs a home, we share ours. We do not know how to think like killers. Alex understood. The Zephyrians were too good for their own safety. Their kindness was their greatest strength, but also their biggest weakness when facing an enemy who wanted to destroy them. Maybe you don't need to become killers, Alex said. Maybe you just need to become better at protecting yourselves. Alex started working with the Zephyrian engineers, sharing human knowledge about defensive systems. He showed them how to build barriers that would stop Krexhai weapons. He taught them about early warning systems that could detect attacks before they happened. The Zephyrians were quick learners. Within days, they had improved their tunnel defenses and created new ways to hide their water sources. Alex helped them design filters that could clean poisoned water, using principles from human chemistry and Zephyrian biology. But Alex knew that defense alone would not be enough. The Krexhai would keep attacking until the Zephyrians were all dead or driven away. Something more had to be done. We need to contact my people, Alex told Cathara. Humans have experience fighting wars. We could help you in ways that would make the Krexhai think twice about attacking you. But your metal. Bird is broken, Cathara said. How can you call to the sky? Alex had been thinking about that problem for days. His ship's radio was badly damaged, but maybe it could be fixed. The Zephyrians had tools and materials that might work. It would take time and luck, but it might be possible. I need to go back. To my ship, Alex said. There are parts I can use if I can get to them safely. Cathara's eyes showed worry. The surface hunters patrol that area now. They have seen your metal bird. They will be watching for you to return. Then we'll have to be smarter than they are, Alex said. 3 days later, Alex and a team of young Zephyrians made their way through secret tunnels toward the surface. The Zephyrians knew hidden paths that led close to where Alex's ship had crashed. They moved quietly, communicating with hand signals and whispered words. When they reached the surface, Alex saw his ship wedged between the canyon walls exactly where he had left it. But now there were HFY guards nearby. 2 large reptilian creatures sat in the shade of the canyon wall, watching the ship with patient eyes. The HFY were everything Cathara had described and more. They were 8 feet tall, with thick, gray-green skin that looked like natural armor. Their heads were long and narrow, with yellow eyes and mouths full of sharp teeth. They carried spears with metal points and what looked like primitive flamethrowers. Alex and the Zephyrians waited until night, when the HFY guards fell asleep. Then they crept down to the ship as quietly as shadows. Alex found the parts he needed from the radio and some other useful equipment. The Zephyrians helped him carry everything back to their tunnels without waking the guards. Back in the safety of the underground city, Alex worked for days to build a new communication device. He combined human electronics with Zephyrian power sources and materials. The result was not pretty, but it might work. On a clear morning, Alex climbed to a hidden opening that led to the surface. He set up his makeshift radio and pointed it toward the sky. Then he began to broadcast on the emergency frequency that all human ships monitored. This is Dr. Alex Kane calling any human vessel. I am stranded on Kepler 442b and in need of immediate assistance. There are intelligent aliens here who have helped me survive, but they are under attack by hostile forces. Please respond. Alex repeated the message over and over for hours. He knew that space was big and ships were small. The chances of anyone hearing him were tiny, but he had to try. 3 days later, while Alex was teaching Zephyrian children about human mathematics, Veltar burst into the classroom with exciting news. Your Sky Talker is making noise, Veltar said. Strange voices are coming from it. Alex ran to the radio as fast as he could. A voice was speaking through the static, a human voice speaking English. Dr. Kane, this is Captain Lisa Brooks of the UES Discovery. We have been searching for you for 3 months. Please respond if you can hear this message. Alex grabbed the microphone with shaking hands. After so long, his people had found him. Captain Brooks, this is Alex Kane. I can hear you clearly. I am alive and well, but I need to tell you something important. I have made contact with a peaceful alien species that saved my life. They are under attack and need our help. There was a long pause before Captain Brooks replied. Say again, Dr. Kane. Did you say aliens? Affirmative, Captain. Friendly aliens who are facing genocide from a hostile species. I am requesting immediate military assistance. Alex looked around at the Zephyrians who had gathered to listen. Their large eyes were full of hope and fear. These gentle people had saved his life when they could have left him to die. Now it was time for Alex to save theirs. Please hurry. Captain, Alex said into the radio. These people do not have much time left. Captain Lisa Brooks stared at her radio in disbelief. She had been searching for Dr. Alex Kane for 3 months, following debris trails and energy signatures across half the star system. She had expected to find a crash site and maybe some remains. She had not expected to find Alex alive and talking about aliens. "Dr. Kane, we are going to need more information," Captain Brooks said carefully. "Are you saying you have made contact with an intelligent alien species?" "Yes, Captain. The Zephyrians saved my life after my ship crashed. They are peaceful, intelligent, and they are being systematically destroyed by another species called the HFY. I am requesting immediate assistance." Brooks looked at her crew on the bridge of the Discovery. Her first officer, Commander Pete Williams, was shaking his head in amazement. Her communications officer, Lieutenant Mary Foster, was recording everything. "Alex, we are going to send down a rescue team," Brooks said. "Can you guide us to a safe landing site?" "Negative, Captain. The surface is controlled by hostile forces, but the Zephyrians know secret routes. If you can land in the Eastern Canyon system, they can guide your team to me through underground tunnels." Brooks felt her pulse quicken. This was bigger than a simple rescue mission. If Alex was right about intelligent aliens, this could change. "Everything for humanity. Stand by, Dr. Kane. We are coming down." 2 hours later, Commander Williams led a 12-person rescue team down to the planet's surface. They landed in the Eastern Canyons as Alex had suggested, far from where his ship had crashed. The team was heavily armed and ready for trouble. Williams had barely set up a perimeter when the rocks around them seemed to come alive. Green glass figures emerged from hidden openings, moving with fluid grace on 4 arms. The Marines raised their weapons, but Williams held up a hand to stop them. "Hold fire," Williams ordered. "These must be the friendlies." The lead Zephyrian approached with its 4 hands spread in a gesture of peace. It spoke in perfect English, which surprised everyone. "Welcome, Sky People. I am Veltar. Dr. Kane sent us to guide you to safety. The surface hunters are nearby, so we must move quickly and quietly." Williams had seen a lot of strange things in his 20 years as a Marine, but nothing had prepared him for this. The Zephyrians led his team through hidden tunnels carved in living rock, past glowing gardens and underground rivers. Everything was beautiful and peaceful, like something from a dream. When they finally reached the main settlement, Williams saw Alex sitting with a group of Zephyrian elders. The doctor looked thin and tired, but alive and healthy. He stood up and smiled when he saw the rescue team. "Commander Williams," Alex said, shaking hands with his old friend. "Thank you for coming. But before we leave, you need to understand what is happening here." Over the next several hours, Alex showed the rescue team around the Zephyrian settlement. He introduced them to families who had fled from destroyed homes. He showed them the water purification systems he had helped design. He explained the history of the conflict with the HFY. Williams was amazed by what he saw. The Zephyrians were clearly intelligent and peaceful. Their technology was different from human technology, but it was sophisticated and elegant. These were people worth knowing and protecting. "How many Zephyrians are left?" Williams asked Cathera. The elder's 4 hands moved in the pattern that meant deep sadness. "Perhaps 50,000 in all the underground cities. Once we were 10 times that number. The surface hunters have killed many and driven away more." "And the HFY?" Williams asked. "Maybe 20,000, but they are all warriors. They live only to fight and conquer. They will not stop until every Zephyrian is dead." Williams recorded everything on his helmet camera. This was information that Earth needed to see. When his team prepared to leave the next day, Alex surprised everyone. "I'm not coming with you," Alex said. "What?" Williams asked. Alex, we came here to rescue you. You did rescue me. You found me and confirmed that I'm alive, but I can't leave these people while they are still in danger. They saved my life, Pete. I owe them more than I can ever repay. Williams understood, but he had his orders. Alex, Earth Command is going to want to debrief you personally. This is the first contact with intelligent aliens. You are the most important person in human space right now. Then bring Earth Command here, Alex said. Let them see what I have seen. Let them meet the Zephyrians face to face. Williams made a difficult decision. He left half his team with Alex and returned to the Discovery with the other half. He carried with him detailed recordings of the Zephyrian settlement, interviews with Alex, and enough evidence to convince anyone that this was real. Captain Brooks transmitted everything to Earth using the fastest communication systems available. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Admiral Jake Norton, commander of the Earth Defense Force, arrived with a full diplomatic team 2 weeks later. President Maria Santos herself came a week after that, traveling farther from Earth than any president in history. The meeting between human leaders and Zephyrian elders took place in the largest chamber of the underground city. President Santos sat across from Kethara and the other Zephyrian leaders, with Alex serving as translator and guide. Your people saved the life of one of our citizens, President Santos said. We do not forget kindness. What can we do to help? You? Kethara's large eyes seemed to grow brighter. We do not ask for much, honored leader. We only want to live in peace and raise our children without fear. But the surface hunters grow stronger each day and we grow weaker. President Santos looked at the reports and recordings her team had prepared. The evidence was clear. The Krexhai were conducting genocide, and the Zephyrians were peaceful people who deserved protection. Mr. Ambassador Kane, President Santos said, turning to Alex. What do you recommend? Alex had thought about this question for weeks. The Zephyrians cannot defend themselves against the Krexhai without help. The technology gap is too big, and the Zephyrians are not warriors by nature, but they are valuable allies. Their knowledge of biology and chemistry could help us in many ways. Their peaceful culture could teach us things about cooperation and harmony. And the Krexhai? Admiral Norton asked. They are classic predators, Alex said. They only understand strength. They will keep attacking until someone shows them that the cost is too high. President Santos made her decision quickly. Admiral Norton, I want you to prepare a response force. Full diplomatic support for the Zephyrians, and whatever military action is necessary to stop the Krexhai aggression. Yes, ma'am, Norton said. What level of force are you authorizing? President Santos looked around the beautiful underground chamber, at the gentle faces of the Zephyrians, and at the recordings of destroyed settlements and poisoned water sources. Whatever it takes, Admiral. These people showed kindness to one of ours when they could have let him die. Earth does not forget its debts. The news reached Earth 3 days later and caused a sensation. Humanity's first contact with intelligent aliens was not with conquerors or traitors, but with refugees who needed help. The story captured the imagination of billions of people. Alex's name and face were on every news broadcast. The story of his crash, rescue, and friendship with the Zephyrians became the most popular story in human history. Children drew pictures of the kind glass-green aliens. Scientists begged for permission to study Zephyrian technology. Politicians competed to show their support for helping Earth's new friends. But while Earth celebrated the discovery of new friends, the Krexhai continued their attacks. 3 more Zephyrian settlements were destroyed while the human fleet prepared for departure. Hundreds more peaceful aliens died while Earth gathered its forces. Alex remained on Kepler 442b during the preparation time, helping coordinate between human and Zephyrian forces. He worked with Admiral Norton's advance team to identify Krex High positions and plan the coming operation. On the day before the main human fleet was scheduled to arrive, Alex stood with Cathara on a high platform overlooking the main Zephyrian city. In the distance, they could see smoke rising from another attack. "Are you certain your people will help us?" Cathara asked. "It is a long way from your world to ours. We are strangers to your people." Alex put a gentle hand on his friend's shoulder. "You are not strangers anymore. You are allies, and humans never abandon their allies. High above them, invisible in the darkness of space, the largest fleet in human history was approaching Kepler 442b. Admiral Norton had assembled a force capable of fighting a major war, all to protect one species that had shown kindness to one lost human. The Krex High had no idea what was coming for them. But Alex knew, and he smiled as he watched the stars. Justice was coming, backed by the full might of Earth's military forces. Zephyrians were about to learn what it meant to have humans as friends. The news of Alex Kane and the Zephyrians spread across Earth like wildfire. Within hours of the first broadcasts, social media exploded with messages of support. "Save the Zephyrians" became the most used hashtag in human history. Children held fundraisers for alien refugees they had never met. Scientists volunteered to drop their research and help with the rescue mission. Dr. Susan Park, Earth's leading expert on interstellar relations, watched the public response from her office in Davao, Geneva. She had spent her whole career preparing for first contact with aliens, but she had never imagined it would happen like this. "The public reaction is unprecedented," she told President Santos during an emergency video conference. "Support for helping the Zephyrians is polling at 97%. People are calling their representatives demanding military action." President Santos nodded grimly. "What about the risks, Dr. Park? We are talking about starting a war with an alien species we know nothing about." From Dr. Kane's reports, the Krex High are primitives with basic weapons and no space travel capability, Dr. Park said. "The risk to our forces should be minimal, but the political benefits of successful intervention could be enormous." "I'm not talking about politics," Santos said sharply. "I'm talking about doing what's right." Admiral Norton joined the conference from his command ship in Earth orbit. His weathered face was serious as he reviewed the tactical situation. "Madam President, we have assembled the largest fleet in Earth Defense Force history," Norton said. 12 heavy cruisers, 36 destroyers, 4 troop transports, and enough support ships to sustain a major campaign. Over 50,000 military personnel are ready to deploy. "That seems like overkill for fighting primitives with spears," President Santos said. "Better to have too much force than too little," Norton replied. "We don't know everything about the Krex High capabilities, and we want to end this conflict quickly with minimum casualties on all sides." The president looked at the reports spread across her desk. Public opinion was overwhelmingly in favor of helping the Zephyrians. The military was confident of success. The potential benefits of having peaceful aliens as allies were enormous. But Maria Santos had been president during the Mars colonial riots and the Asteroid Belt War. She knew how quickly military operations could go wrong, even when they started. With the best intentions, "Admiral, I want you to try diplomacy first," Santos said. Give the Krex High a chance to stop their attacks voluntarily. Only use force if they refuse to negotiate. Yes, ma'am, Norton said. But, Madam President, based on Dr. Kane's reports, the Krex High don't seem interested in diplomacy. They have been conducting systematic genocide for 50 years. Then we will stop them, Santos said firmly. But we do it right. Full media coverage, complete documentation, and every effort made to minimize civilian casualties. I want the whole galaxy to see that humans fight for justice, not conquest. The preparation took 3 weeks. Ships from across the solar system gathered at the staging point near Jupiter. The media covered every aspect of the deployment, interviewing families of soldiers and showing the massive ships preparing for departure. General Robert Hayes commanded the ground forces from his flagship, the Troop Transport New York. His Marines were the best trained and equipped in human history. They had powered armor that could stop tank rounds, weapons that could punch through steel, and medical technology that could heal almost any injury. The boys are excited, Hayes told his staff during a final briefing. They have been watching the videos from Kepler 442b. They want to help those aliens as much as anyone. Colonel Danny Price nodded in agreement. His regiment would be the first to land on the alien world. The men understand this is not a normal combat mission, Price said. We are going there to protect innocent people, not to conquer territory. Everyone is taking that seriously. Dr. Nina Walsh, the mission's chief xenobiologist, was busy studying every piece of information about Zephyrian biology and Krex High physiology. She would be responsible for treating alien casualties and understanding how human weapons might affect alien biology. The Zephyrians seem physically fragile compared to humans, Dr. Walsh reported. Their bones are lighter. Their skin is thinner. We need to be very careful not to accidentally hurt them during combat operations. The Krex High, on the other hand, appear to be much more durable. Their skin is like natural armor, and they are physically much stronger than humans. The fleet departed Earth on a Tuesday morning, while crowds gathered in every major city to watch the ships leave. Children waved flags with the Zephyrian symbol that Alex had transmitted, a stylized flower representing peace and growth. Adults sang songs about friendship and justice. The whole world felt united in a way that had not happened since the early days of space exploration. On Kepler 442b, Alex watched the preparations with mixed emotions. He was excited that his people were coming to help, but worried about what the fighting might bring. War was always unpredictable, even when one side had overwhelming advantages. The Zephyrians were amazed by the human response. Cathara and the other elders could barely believe that an entire planet of strangers was sending armies to help them. Your people are truly remarkable, Cathara told Alex as they watched human advance scouts setting up equipment. We saved one human, and your whole species responds as if we had saved all of you. That's how humans work, Alex explained. An attack on one of us is an attack on all of us. Kindness to one of us is kindness to all of us. We take friendship very seriously. Meanwhile, the Krex High continued their attacks, unaware that anything had changed. They destroyed 2 more Zephyrian outposts and poisoned another water source. To them, it was just another step in their plan to take over the planet. Warlord Grax, the supreme leader of the Krex High, was pleased with their progress. His warriors had driven the weak underground dwellers from most of their territory. Soon the whole planet would belong to the Krex High, as it should. The soft ones grow weaker each day, Grax told his war council. Their remaining settlements cannot hold out much longer. By next season, we will control all the water sources. "What about the sky metal that fell in the western canyons?" asked General Vexra. "Our scouts say it came from above the clouds." Grakath showed his teeth in what passed for a laugh among his people. "Probably debris from an old battle in the void. It means nothing. Continue the attacks." The HFY had no concept of space travel or other worlds with intelligent life. To them, the universe consisted of their planet and the lights in the sky. They could not imagine that help might come from those distant stars. But help was coming, in the form of the most powerful fleet humanity had ever assembled. Admiral Norton's ships traveled through hyperspace at maximum speed, covering the distance between Earth and Kepler 442b in just over 2 weeks. On Earth, people followed the fleet's progress through news broadcasts and official updates. Schools taught children about Zephyrian culture. Museums created exhibits about peaceful first contact. Artists painted pictures of humans and aliens working together. The story caught the imagination of other human colonies as well. Mars sent supply ships to support the mission. The asteroid mining stations donated rare metals for weapon production. Even the independent traders of the outer system offered to carry messages and supplies. For the first time in decades, humanity felt truly united. They were not fighting for resources or territory or political control. They were fighting for something much more important, the principle that peaceful people should be protected from those who would destroy them. Alex spent his time preparing the Zephyrians for what was coming. He explained human military tactics and technology, trying to help his alien friends understand how the war would be fought. "Your people fight very differently than the surface hunters," Veltar observed after watching videos of human combat operations. "The HFY charge forward and try to overwhelm their enemies with strength. Your people use strategy and technology. Humans learned long ago that the strongest fighter does not always win," Alex said. "The smartest fighter usually wins. We use our brains to make up for physical weaknesses." The Zephyrians were fascinated by human technology, especially the medical equipment that could heal injuries that would be fatal to their people. They offered to share their own knowledge in return: advanced biological sciences, sustainable energy systems, and methods for growing food in harsh environments. 3 days before the human fleet was scheduled to arrive, the HFY launched their largest attack yet. 5,000 warriors struck at the main Zephyrian city, trying to break through the underground defenses. The battle raged for 12 hours before the attackers were finally driven off. The cost was terrible. Over 200 Zephyrians died, including many children and elders. The city's main water treatment facility was damaged, and several tunnels collapsed, trapping families underground. Alex worked frantically with human medics and Zephyrian healers to save the wounded. He saw the fear in the eyes of Zephyrian children who had never known peace. He saw the determination in the faces of Zephyrian adults who refused to give up hope. "Hold on," Alex whispered to a wounded Zephyrian elder as he applied human medical technology to alien injuries. "Just hold on a little longer. Help is almost here." The morning sky above Kepler 442b changed forever when Admiral Norton's fleet emerged from hyperspace. Where once there had been only empty space and distant stars, now there were dozens of massive ships arranged in perfect formation around the planet. The human vessels were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The flagship EDF Retribution was over 2 miles long, its hull gleaming silver against the black of space. The heavy cruisers looked like floating cities, bristling with weapon systems and sensor arrays. The smaller destroyers moved like sharks, through the void, fast and deadly. On the planet's surface, both Zephyrians and HFY looked up at the sky in wonder and fear. The Zephyrians had heard Alex's stories about human technology, but seeing it with their own eyes was overwhelming. The HFY had never imagined that anything could exist beyond their world. Admiral Norton stood on the bridge of the Retribution, looking down at the planet through the main viewing screen. He had fought in many battles during his long career, but this was different. This time he was not fighting for territory or resources. He was fighting for justice. "Communications. Open a channel to the planet," Norton ordered. "All frequencies. Maximum power." Lieutenant Commander Sarah Wells worked at her console, establishing contact with the surface. "Channel open, sir. Broadcasting on all known HFY. Communication frequencies." Norton picked up the microphone and spoke in carefully practiced HFY words. Human linguists had worked for weeks to translate his message using the language samples that Alex and the Zephyrians had provided. "People of the surface lands, this is Admiral Norton of Earth Defense Force. We speak for the human race from the world called Earth. We know of your war against the underground people. This war must stop now." On the surface, HFY warriors gathered around their primitive radio equipment, listening to the strange voice speaking their language. Most of them had never heard of anything called Earth or humans. To them, the universe was their planet and nothing more. Warlord Grakoth pushed through his warriors to reach the radio. The massive HFY leader stood 8 feet tall, with scars covering his armored hide. He had led his people in conquest for 20 years, and he feared nothing. "Sky voice," Grakoth growled into the radio. "I do not know what you are or where you come from, but this world belongs to the HFY. The weak underground crawlers will die, and no one will stop us." Norton heard the translation through his earpiece and sighed. He had hoped that the mere presence of the fleet would be enough to make the HFY think twice. But primitive minds often could not understand what they were seeing until it was too late. "Warlord Grakoth," Norton said, using the HFY leader's name to show that humans knew who they were dealing with. "Look at your sky. Count our ships. Think about what power can travel between stars. End your war now, or we will end it for you." Grakoth looked up at the metal shapes hanging in his sky. They were large, but they were far away. What could sky metal do to warriors on the ground? "Your words mean nothing, Sky Voice," Grakoth snarled. "Watch as we destroy another underground nest. See how your distance fire cannot protect the weak ones." The HFY leader gave orders to his generals. Within an hour, 5,000 HFY warriors were marching toward the nearest Zephyrian settlement. They carried spears, axes, and primitive flamethrowers, confident that their strength would triumph as it always had. Norton watched the HFY army through his ship's sensors. The alien warriors moved in loose formations with no real discipline. They had clearly never fought against anyone with advanced technology. "They are going to attack the eastern settlement," reported Commander Williams from the sensor station. "The Zephyrians there have about 200 defenders, mostly civilians." Norton felt a familiar coldness settle into his chest. He had seen this pattern before. Bullies who only understood force. Predators who would keep killing until someone killed them first. "Target the HFY army," Norton ordered. "Precision strikes on military formations only. No civilian areas. No permanent damage to the planet. Show them what orbital bombardment means." The weapons officer, Lieutenant Colonel Frank Davis, worked at his console with practiced efficiency. "Targets locked, sir. Ready to fire on your command." "Fire," Norton said quietly. Light fell from the sky like the wrath of an angry god. Plasma beams, invisible from space but blazing bright in the atmosphere, reached down from the human ships and touched the ground where the HFY army was marching. The results were instant and overwhelming. Where the beams touched, rock melted, and metal vaporized. HFY warriors simply vanished, turned to vapor faster than their minds could process what was happening. In 30 seconds, the 5,000-strong army was reduced to scattered survivors running in panic. The demonstration was precise and surgical. The plasma beams had targeted only the military formations, leaving the surrounding landscape untouched. But the message was clear. Human technology could reach down from space and destroy anything it chose to destroy. In the HFY capital, Warlord Gract listened to the panicked radio reports from his surviving soldiers. His scouts described light from the sky that killed instantly, weapons that struck without warning from impossible distances. For the first time in his life, Gracketh felt fear. His people were brave fighters, but they had never faced magic like this. How could warriors with spears and axes fight enemies who commanded the sky itself? "All forces, retreat to defensive positions," Grackth ordered. "No more attacks until we understand what we face." But Norton was not finished with his demonstration. The next target was a HFY military base, where they stored their weapons and planned their attacks. Again, light fell from the sky, and the base simply ceased to exist. Then another base, and another. Within 2 hours, every major HFY military installation had been destroyed from orbit. Weapons depots, training camps, communication centers all turned to glowing craters by the precision of human firepower. The psychological effect was devastating. HFY warriors who had never known defeat suddenly found themselves helpless against an enemy they could not even see. Many threw down their weapons and fled to their homes. Others gathered in confused groups, unsure what to do when their strength meant nothing. In the underground cities, the Zephyrians watched the destruction with amazement and relief. They had seen the light falling from the sky, and Alex had explained what it meant. "The sky weapons of your people are like magic," Kethara said to Alex as they watched reports from the surface. The surface hunters had no chance to fight back. "Human technology is very advanced compared to the HFY," Alex explained. "But we are being careful to only target military sites. We don't want to hurt innocent people, even among our enemies." The orbital bombardment continued for 3 days, systematically destroying every HFY military asset that human sensors could detect. Supply convoys vanished in flashes of light. Command posts became smoking craters. Weapons factories were reduced to puddles of melted metal. But Norton was careful to avoid civilian targets. Human sensors could tell the difference between military and non-military sites, and the Admiral had strict orders to minimize casualties among non-combatants. By the 4th day, organized HFY resistance had completely collapsed. Their communication networks were destroyed, their leaders were hiding in caves, and their armies had scattered to the winds. The species that had dominated the planet through strength and aggression found themselves powerless against an enemy from the stars. Warlord Gracketh tried one last desperate gambit. He gathered his remaining warriors around civilian settlements, hoping that the sky demons would not attack if innocent HFY might be hurt. Norton saw through the tactic immediately. Human sensors could track individual life signs and distinguish between combatants and non-combatants. When HFY soldiers tried to hide behind their own families, precisely targeted beams simply vaporized the soldiers while leaving the civilians untouched. The demonstration of such precise control over their devastating weapons had an even greater psychological impact than the raw destruction. The HFY realized they were facing beings with godlike power who could choose exactly who lived and who died. On the 5th day, white flags began appearing over HFY settlements. The primitive radio networks carried messages of surrender and pleas for mercy. Warlord Galactic himself broadcast a message asking for negotiations. "Sky demons," Galactic said, his voice shaking with fear and exhaustion. "You have shown your power. The HFY surrender. What do you want from us?" Norton had been waiting for this moment. The orbital bombardment had been designed not just to destroy HFY military power, but to convince them that further resistance was hopeless. "Warlord Galactic," Norton replied, "we want justice. You will stop all attacks on the Zephyrians immediately. You will release any prisoners. You will return to designated territory and remain there. Representatives of Earth will come to the surface to negotiate a permanent peace." Galactic's response was immediate. "Yes, Sky Demons. We agree to all your demands. Please stop the burning light from the sky." Norton nodded to his communications officer. "Send word to General Hayes. Begin landing operations. The planet is secure." The first human boots touched the surface of Kepler 442b at dawn on the 6th day. Colonel Danny Price led his Marines down the ramp of their landing craft, weapons ready but not raised. The air was thick and humid, filled with unfamiliar smells, and the sound of insects that were not quite insects. Price had fought on 6 different worlds during his 20-year career, but this was different. His mission was not to conquer or destroy, but to keep peace between 2 alien species while protecting the innocent. "Spread out, but keep it friendly," Price told his troops over the radio. "Remember, we are peacekeepers now, not invaders." The landing zone was in a flat area between the Zephyrian underground cities and the HFY settlements. Human engineers had chosen the spot carefully, close enough to both populations to respond quickly to any problems, but far enough away to avoid making either side feel threatened. Within hours, the landing zone became a bustling base. Prefabricated buildings rose from the ground as human engineers worked with mechanical efficiency. Communication arrays reached toward the sky to maintain contact with the fleet. Medical stations prepared to treat both human and alien casualties. Dr. Nina Walsh set up her medical facility with special care. She had studied Zephyrian and HFY biology during the voyage, but theory was different from practice. She might have to save alien lives with techniques that had never been tested. "The Zephyrians should be relatively easy to treat," Dr. Walsh told her medical team. "Their biology is similar enough to ours that most of our medicines should work. The HFY will be more challenging. Their skin is like armor, and their internal organs are arranged differently than in any species we know." The first Zephyrians arrived at the human base before noon. Veltar led a delegation of young scouts who had volunteered to serve as guides and translators. They moved with cautious grace, their large eyes taking in everything. "Welcome to the surface, friends," Price said through his translator device. "Are you comfortable in the open air?" "We have not walked under the sky for many years," Veltar replied. "It feels strange but good. We thank you for making it safe." Alex arrived with the next group of Zephyrians, accompanied by Cathara and several other elders. The old doctor looked tired but happy as he greeted his fellow humans. "How are you?" "Holding up, Alex," Price asked. "You have been through a lot." "I'm fine, Danny," Alex said. "Better than fine. These people saved my life, and now I get to help save theirs. What could be better than that? The real test came when the first HFY delegation approached the human base. A group of 20 reptilian warriors walked slowly across the open ground, carrying white flags and moving with obvious fear. The HFY were impressive up close. They stood over 8 feet tall, with thick gray-green skin that looked like natural armor plating. Their yellow eyes were intelligent but filled with confusion and terror. They had never seen anything like the humans before. The leader of the delegation was General Vexra, one of Warlord Grakt's most trusted commanders. The massive reptile stopped 50 feet from the human perimeter and spoke in a voice like grinding stone. "I am Vexra of the HFY people." The translator device converted his words to English. "I come to speak with the sky demons about peace." Price stepped forward, keeping his hands visible and his weapon lowered. "I am Colonel Price of Earth Defense Force. We are not demons. We are humans from the world called Earth. We have come to stop the war and protect innocent people." Vexra's large head tilted as he tried to understand. The concept of beings from another world was almost impossible for his primitive mind to grasp. "You command the burning light from the sky?" Vexra asked. "Yes," Price said simply. "And we will use it again if the killing does not stop." The negotiations took place in a large tent that human engineers had constructed for the purpose. Representatives from all 3 species sat around a circular table, with Alex and other human translators helping everyone understand each other. The evidence of HFY war crimes was overwhelming. Human orbital sensors had recorded everything. The attacks on civilians, the poisoning of water sources, the systematic destruction of Zephyrian settlements. Dr. Walsh presented medical evidence showing that the HFY had been using chemical weapons designed to kill slowly and painfully. "These are not the actions of honorable warriors," Price told Vexra and the other HFY delegates. "These are the actions of murderers. Why did your people do this?" Vexra's eyes showed something that might have been shame. "The underground dwellers are weak. We are strong. The strong should rule the weak. This is the way of nature." "Not anymore," Price said firmly. "The strongest beings in this star system are humans, and we say that the strong should protect the weak, not destroy them." The HFY had difficulty understanding this concept. Their entire culture was based on the idea that might made right. The notion that power should be used to help others instead of dominating them was foreign to their thinking. But they could not argue with the results of the orbital bombardment. Human technology had made HFY military power irrelevant in a matter of hours. If humans said that strength should protect weakness, then that was how things would be. Over the following days, human teams spread out across the planet to assess the damage and begin restoration efforts. What they found was worse than anyone had expected. The HFY had not just been fighting a war, they had been conducting systematic extermination. Entire Zephyrian cities had been destroyed with chemical weapons. Water sources had been poisoned with compounds designed to kill slowly. Children's camps had been targeted specifically to prevent the next generation from surviving. "This is genocide," Dr. Walsh reported to Admiral Norton during a video conference. The HFY were not trying to win territory. They were trying to make the Zephyrians extinct. Norton felt his jaw tighten as he reviewed the evidence. "How many Zephyrians are left?" "Maybe 40,000, scattered across dozens of underground settlements," Dr. Walsh said. "There used to be over 500,000 before the war started." The scale of the tragedy was staggering. An entire civilization had been nearly wiped out by neighbors who could not tolerate sharing their world with peaceful people. But humans had arrived in time to save what remained. Human medical teams worked around the clock to treat Zephyrian refugees suffering from chemical poisoning. Human engineers began the massive task of cleaning contaminated water sources. Human soldiers stood guard to ensure that no more attacks would take place. Commander Ryan Clark led the environmental restoration effort. His team used advanced human technology to neutralize the chemical weapons that had poisoned large areas of the planet. The Krexhai used some nasty stuff, Clark reported. Nerve agents, biological toxins, things that would take decades to break down naturally. But our neutralization systems can handle it. We should have the worst areas cleaned up within a few months. The work was dangerous and difficult. Human engineers had to enter contaminated zones wearing full protective gear, using machines that could detect and neutralize chemical weapons at the molecular level. But they worked with determination, knowing that Zephyrian families were depending on them. The Zephyrians themselves proved to be valuable partners in the restoration effort. Their deep knowledge of the planet's ecology helped human scientists understand how to repair the damage most effectively. Zephyrian biotechnology could break down some toxins that even human science found challenging. "Your people are remarkable," Cathara told Alex as they watched human and Zephyrian teams working together to restore a poisoned valley. "You could have simply destroyed the surface hunters and left. Instead, you stay to heal the wounds they made." "That's what allies do," Alex said. "We don't just fight your enemies, we help you rebuild afterward." The Krexhai watched these efforts with growing amazement. They had expected the sky demons to punish them harshly for their crimes. Instead, humans seemed more interested in fixing what had been broken than in seeking revenge. Some Krexhai began to volunteer to help with the restoration work. At first, their offers were viewed with suspicion by the Zephyrians, who had too many painful memories of Krexhai cruelty. But gradually, working side by side in the difficult task of healing their world, some members of both species began to see each other differently. General Vexra was one of the first Krexhai to truly understand what humans were trying to accomplish. He worked with human engineers to identify all the sites where chemical weapons had been used, even when it meant admitting to war crimes that his own people had committed. "Why do you help us?" Vexra asked Colonel Price one evening as they reviewed maps of contaminated areas. "We were your enemies. We killed the people you came to protect." Price considered the question carefully. "Because punishment alone doesn't fix anything. If we just hurt you for what you did, the hatred would continue. But if we can help both your peoples build something better, maybe this kind of war will never happen again." The concept was difficult for Vexra to understand, but he could see the results. Zephyrian refugees were returning to settlements that had been uninhabitable for years. Children who had never seen clean water were drinking from springs that ran clear again. Plants were growing in soil that had been poisoned and barren. The War Crimes Tribunal began 6 weeks after the last Krexhai military unit surrendered. Admiral Norton had insisted on formal proceedings to ensure that justice was done properly, not just quickly. The trial would be held aboard the flagship, Retribution, with representatives from all 3 species serving as judges and witnesses. Warlord Grakth was brought aboard the human ship in restraints, though he offered no resistance. The massive Krexhai leader looked smaller somehow, his fierce yellow eyes now dull with defeat and confusion. He had ruled through strength his entire life, and he could not understand a world where strength alone was not enough. The courtroom was a large cargo bay that had been converted for the proceedings. Human engineers had installed translation, equipment that could handle all 3 languages simultaneously. Representatives from Earth, Zephyria, and even some moderate HFY leaders sat as judges. Judge Commander Lisa Hamilton presided over the court, her years of experience in military law making her the obvious choice to handle such an unprecedented case. She had prosecuted war criminals before, but never alien war criminals whose entire culture was on trial along with their actions. This tribunal is convened to determine the guilt or innocence of the accused in the matter of crimes against sapient beings, Judge Hamilton announced. The charges include genocide, the use of chemical weapons against civilians, and systematic destruction of cultural sites. The evidence was overwhelming. Human orbital sensors had recorded everything, providing perfect documentation of every attack, every poisoning, every act of deliberate cruelty. Video recordings showed HFY warriors destroying Zephyrian schools and hospitals. Chemical analysis proved that water sources had been deliberately contaminated with toxins designed to cause slow, painful death. Dr. Walsh presented medical evidence that made even the hardened military officers in the courtroom feel sick. Children's bodies poisoned by chemicals that attacked their nervous systems. Elders who had died in agony as toxins shut down their organs one by one. Entire families wiped out by weapons designed to maximize suffering. The accused did not simply wage war, Dr. Walsh testified. They conducted systematic extermination using methods designed to cause maximum pain and terror. This was not combat. This was torture on a planetary scale. Gracketh listened to the testimony through his translator, his face showing no emotion. When asked to defend his actions, he stood and spoke in his grinding voice. "I do not understand your words about crime and guilt," Gracketh said. "The underground dwellers were weak. We were strong. The strong take what they want from the weak. This is the way of nature. This is the way of the HFY." "Even if that were true," Judge Hamilton replied, "strength does not give you the right to commit genocide. Strength carries responsibility to protect those who cannot protect themselves." Gracketh's expression showed confusion. Why would the strong protect the weak? The weak exist to serve the strong or to die. This is natural law. Alex was called as a witness to explain Zephyrian culture and the relationship between the two species. He described the peaceful society that had saved his life, the advanced technology that focused on helping rather than harming, the cooperative spirit that had allowed the Zephyrians to thrive underground. The Zephyrians never threatened the HFY, Alex testified. They offered to share their resources and knowledge. They tried to find peaceful solutions to every conflict. The only reason they are nearly extinct is because they were too kind to defend themselves properly. Cathara spoke for the Zephyrian people, describing the history of the conflict from their perspective. The elder's four hands moved in patterns of deep sadness as he told of villages destroyed, children murdered, and water sources poisoned. "We offered friendship and received death," Cathara said. "We offered knowledge and received destruction. We offered our homes and received genocide. We asked only to live in peace, and they answered with chemical weapons." The most surprising testimony came from General Vexra, who had been working with human teams to document HFY war crimes. The reptilian officer stood before the court and admitted to actions that he had once considered normal military tactics. "I led attacks on civilian targets," Vexra said, his voice heavy with what might have been shame. "I ordered the poisoning of water sources. I believed we were acting as warriors should act. Now I see that we were acting as monsters." When asked what had changed his mind, Vexra looked directly at the human officers in the courtroom. "I have seen how real warriors behave. I have watched human soldiers risk their lives to save our enemies. I have seen human doctors treat Krexhai wounded with the same care they give their own people. I have learned that true strength protects rather than destroys." The trial lasted 2 weeks, with testimony from dozens of witnesses and experts. The evidence was so overwhelming that even Gracath's defense attorneys, human military lawyers assigned to ensure a fair trial, could only argue for mercy rather than innocence. The verdict was unanimous. Gracath and his top commanders were found guilty of genocide, war crimes, and crimes against sapient beings. The court sentenced them to life imprisonment on a secure facility that humans would construct in the outer system. But Judge Hamilton made it clear that the trial was about more than just punishment. "This tribunal establishes a principle that will govern relations between all sapient species," she announced. "Genocide is a crime against all thinking beings, regardless of what world they come from. The strong have a duty to protect the weak, not to exploit them. Any species that commits these crimes will face the justice of the civilized galaxy." The reconstruction effort began immediately after the trial concluded. Commander Clark's engineering teams had already neutralized most of the chemical contamination, but now the real work of rebuilding could begin. Human architects worked with Zephyrian designers to create new settlements that combined the best of both technologies. Underground cities were expanded and improved with human engineering, while surface structures were built using Zephyrian principles of harmony with the environment. The new capital city, built at the site of the human landing zone, became a symbol of cooperation between species. Buildings rose from the ground in organic curves that pleased Zephyrian eyes, while human technology provided power, communication, and defense systems. Dr. Walsh established the planet's first interspecies medical center, where human, Zephyrian, and even some Krexhai doctors worked together to develop new treatments for all 3 species. The research proved remarkably fruitful. Zephyrian knowledge of biology combined with human technology to create medical advances that neither species could have achieved alone. The Zephyrians understand life processes in ways we never considered. Dr. Walsh reported to Admiral Norton. "They can regrow damaged organs using guided stem cell therapy. Combined with our surgical techniques, we can now treat injuries that would have been fatal to any of our species." The agricultural restoration was equally impressive. Zephyrian farmers knew which plants could thrive in soil that was still recovering from chemical damage. Human engineers provided machinery that could work contaminated ground safely. Together, they created farms that were more productive than anything that had existed on the planet before the war. But the most important reconstruction was social. Humans established schools where young Zephyrians and Krexhai could learn together, often, for the first time in their lives. The children adapted more quickly than their parents, forming friendships that crossed species lines. Alex found himself appointed as Earth's first ambassador to Kepler 442b, a job that involved everything from trade negotiations to marriage counseling between interspecies couples. His experience living with both cultures made him uniquely qualified to help them understand each other. "Your people have given us more than our lives," Cathera told Alex during the first anniversary of the liberation. "You have given us hope for a future we never dared to imagine." The economic integration was remarkable. Zephyrian biotechnology proved valuable for everything from medicine to agriculture to environmental restoration. Krek's high strength and endurance made them excellent workers in dangerous industries like mining and construction, especially when guided by human safety standards and Zephyrian environmental wisdom. Admiral Norton established a permanent defense station in orbit around Kepler 442b, staffed by volunteers from Earth who wanted to help protect the growing peace. The station served as both a deterrent to any future aggression and a symbol of human commitment to interspecies cooperation. "We are not occupiers," Norton explained to the Planetary Council that now governed Kepler 442b. "We are guardians. We will remain here as long as you need us, and we will leave whenever you ask us to go." The transformation was not without problems. Some Krexhai never accepted the new order and had to be relocated to areas where they could live traditionally without threatening their neighbors. Some Zephyrians found it difficult to forgive generations of persecution and needed counseling to work alongside former enemies. But progress was steady and real. Trade routes developed between Earth and Kepler 442b, carrying Zephyrian biotechnology to human colonies and bringing human-manufactured goods to the recovering planet. Cultural exchanges brought Zephyrian artists and scientists to Earth, while human teachers and engineers made permanent homes on the A.